Do you hate Adderall? Do you hate Xanax? Are you just generally not into the vibe of pharmaceuticals and instead are you seeking something more natural? And in that case, this video is for you. We're gonna cover some of our favorite adaptogens and mushrooms for focus, calm, gut health, and many other things with my good friend, Danielle Dawson, who's an amazing clinical herbalist and a teacher of mycology. By the way, in this video, you'll notice that my audio quality is suboptimal. We take a lot of pride in this channel on producing high quality content, but also good quality audio and video. Particularly the audio, I think is so critical in YouTube and also in podcast. And sadly, there was a technical glitch, comes across a little weak. So apologies for that. We will make sure that in videos going forward, that will not happen. That being said, the most valuable insights don't come from me, but my guest, Danielle, and her audio is awesome. So I think you'll enjoy it and learn a lot. I just want to note that and apologize. Now let's talk to Danielle. And before we go into what you should take, let's start with the first question we all want answers for. And what is a superfood? So before we get started, I want to talk about the description of superfoods. What does the superfood mean to you? I know that gets used pretty broadly in today's world.
Superfoods are really powerful ingredients that have a ton of identified compounds in one. So they have a wide range of minerals, vitamins, micronutrients, macronutrients, and then synergy occurs.
To me, it's like our ancestors struggled getting enough calories and they were in a caloric deficit often.
Yeah.
And in our world, it's the opposite. We're overeaten and undernourished. And I think superfoods are a good counter to that. They have very few calories for the amount of other nutrients that they contain.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in. I want to start with my absolute favorite. I'm obviously from Finland, and us Nordic people have our own superfoods. Every corner of the earth have their own like top few foods.
Yep.
For us, rhodiola is one of them. It's one of our sacred plants, also sometimes called the Nordic ginseng. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about rhodiola and why it's so amazing?
Rhodiola is amazing. It's a succulent, has this little yellow flower, and we actually use the root. And there's a great history that I'll let you tell about Vikings and Sami people using this root. But clinical studies also validate the traditional use case. So there's an awesome study out of Belgium with 200 participants, really large study, where they took 200 milligrams of rhodiola root a day and were found to increase breathing and reduce the amount of time it took to get exhausted. So this means it's amazing for endurance, for athletic performance, and anytime you need energy without stimulation or caffeination.
Mm-hmm. To me, what's fascinating about it is when I started Four Sigmatic years and years ago, we started in Europe. And in Europe, you're very strict on what can you say that a fruit does. Like it's in US, you can be pretty actually liberal to say what the health benefits are. And in Europe, you couldn't really make health claims. But rhodiola, you were allowed to for cognitive function. It was one of the only foods, natural foods, that you could say that it actually works because there was so much studies on it.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember when we were in Iceland, I was looking for rhodiola, and what fascinated me was not only does it grow in some of these extreme climates on Earth, which we talk about xenohormesis, and where it grows is developing compounds to become resilient to the stressors in its environment. We were hiking up in Iceland, and not only was it, in these rocky soils and extreme temperatures, but it was on these cliff sides that were so impossible to get to.
Yeah.
And it just shows the resilience of finding this tiny, beautiful little yellow flower and root out in nature and how much it can endure, and really shows us what it can do in our own bodies.
Can you talk a little bit about xenohormesis? Because it's a common thread along these really nutrient-dense natural products, also known as superfoods.
Yeah, this is so important. It's essentially sourcing ingredients from their native countries where they evolved to grow. And in those native environments, they're exposed to a wide range of environmental stressors, be it from the soil, the temperature, and in response to those environmental stressors, they develop compounds to enable them to thrive in these tough, harsh environments. Mm-hmm. And those compounds are the key components that make them adaptogens and give us the ability to also have that perseverance against the stressors in our life.
So how would one use rhodiola? What you think is a good dosage per day? And then what time of day and what use case would you use it for?
Yeah, I'd use it in the morning or early afternoon. So anytime you want that pick-me-up. I love putting it in smoothies or making like little raw balls or chocolate with it. Anywhere between 1 to 3 grams of the extracted root powder is a really kind of like strong, powerful dose that you'll see in the clinical trials. But if you have the root powder, I'd get creative. Put it in coffee and smoothies, and any other time you would have a caffeinated beverage. Great idea to add the rhodiola in there for mental and physical endurance and energy.
Yeah. I like to think of it, if I only use one adaptogen, I like to take that 1 to 3 grams of extract.
Yeah.
If I take 2, 3, 4 at the same time, I like to take a little bit less. So it's like maintenance dose versus load up dose, like kind of like creatine monohydrate.
Totally.
So yeah, I would say 1 to 200 milligrams on a daily basis is good for me. If I take multiple, but if I just want that one, then I do load up quite a bit personally.
Yeah, love it.
Okay, let's talk about, I'm obviously a fungi, so I love mushrooms. And when I go foraging, the easiest and most fun things to forage is turkey tail. And I think more and more people are learning about turkey tail. What makes turkey tail so special?
Oh my God, so many things. Turkey tail is really profound for the gut, for our immune system. People don't realize it's kind of talking about the same thing, right? 70% of our immune system lives in our gut, so they really go hand in hand. One of the coolest things about turkey tail that I love telling people to really buy them into this functional mushroom is that one of the best anti-cancer drugs in Japan, Crestin, is actually derived from a polysaccharide, a sugar that's found in turkey tail. And this is amazing. So we think about it in this country a lot for gut health, but the immune system, and really in conjunction with some of the most extreme cases of cancer, can actually be supported with turkey tail, both in conjunction with conventional treatments and on its own. So powerful to both increase natural killer cells, T lymphocytes, right? Now, aspects of our own immune system, but also antiviral, antibacterial. So it has this dual activity for the immune system. And then of course the rich prebiotics. So epic for a healthy microbiome, which is really the foundation of health and well-being and mood and so much more.
Yeah, why do you think gut health is so important? Like, back in the day, people would think it's just for digestion, you get a good poop, you don't feel constipated, but now we know more about like the microbiome and the impact on how the vagus nerve and our feelings and emotion. But like, why is gut health so important?
It really, for me, stems from experience and seeing this in so many of my clients' bodies. Regardless of what's going on, it's treating the root of the tree of our body. And so no matter what, whether you have headaches or rashes or are having trouble detoxing or you do have digestive issues, when we treat the microbiome, when we start giving the body the right nutrients, healing the gut lining, a host of seemingly external symptoms begin to go away. And that's where I really started believing this. It's like you could read a million studies, but I'm like, okay, someone has a rash on their arm, let's treat their gut or let's treat the rash. You treat the rash, it comes back the next month. You treat the gut, the rash is gone for life.
Love that. Love that. Let's talk about ashwagandha. When we wrote our book together, The Healing Adaptogens, a few years ago, and doing research for it, I was blown away that Google searches for ashwagandha, which is very hard to spell, has exceeded the searches for green juice. And it's become this massively popular thing and actually fairly mainstream, surprisingly.
Yeah.
What makes ashwagandha great? Because spelling is not one of them.
Totally. Ashwagandha is a root, right? It's in the nightshade family. A lot of people don't realize that. And it really has a profound effect on women's bodies, particularly hormonal balance. And we see that whether it's longevity, stress, mood, brain health, right? When we're supporting the hormones, there's this incredible cascade of secondary benefits that happen. And I remember this woman wrote into us when I was doing customer support with Four Sigmatic, and she had this crazy laundry list of symptoms. She had debilitating cramping, she had cysts, she couldn't get food down, right? This issue with the microbiome. And the one thing she did, she said she added 200 milligrams of ashwagandha into her coffee every morning for a couple months. After just a couple months, symptom-free. But she didn't realize that it was the ashwagandha. Yeah. She took a break accidentally for a month, and all these symptoms came back, literally to the point that she couldn't walk. Wow. And she realized What's the one thing that's missing? She incorporated the ashwagandha again.
Right.
4 weeks later, she was back to her baseline.
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible.
I see a lot of products that say the ashwagandha for occasional stress support, but then I also see products that says ashwagandha for cognitive function. Can you explain that in layman terms? Why can a thing help you calm and focus at the same time?
It depends on your body, right? We're all in different states of health, and what makes adaptogens so incredible is that when you're supporting whatever your body needs is an imbalance, there's going to be a benefit that you're looking for. So let's say you're completely exhausted. You might be a great candidate for ashwagandha actually helping you get to sleep, so you wake up the next morning with the energy and the cognitive fire that you're looking for. But if you've gotten a ton of sleep, and you're rested, maybe that ashwagandha doesn't need to so profoundly affect your adrenals and that ability to regulate your nervous system. And you might feel that like mood lift or that kind of spark in your brain right away. So it's going to work with you and deliver. It's like, what's the weakest point in your body? And let me go there and replenish that area first. And that's going to depend on the time of year and the state of your body. So the benefits are, they're consistent, but it depends on what you need.
Totally. We talked about how rhodiola helps with stamina. We talked about how ashwagandha can also help with focus. My favorite natural nootropic is lion's mane, and I know it's become massively popular over the last few years. Why is lion's mane so popular? Why do so many people swear by lion's mane? What makes it special?
People want to turn on their brain. Like in this country, the more we do, the more we work, the more rewarded we are. And we don't have a lot of options that we can get there without having a pretty negative downside, right? It's like, you can load up on a ton of caffeine, but you crash later. It's kind of counteracts the point.
Does it work? What does the study say?
Yes. I'll start with a story again, and then we'll go into the research. But a friend of mine, so before I started with Four Sigmatic, I would use lion's mane in my private practice. I had a friend that was like, hey, I have to tell you this story. A lion's mane I called the nerve mushroom, right? It activates nerve growth factor everywhere in the body, also within the blood-brain barrier. This friend, he got in a gnarly snowboarding accident, lost nerve function in the entire left side of his body, and was told, we don't have anything natural or pharmaceutical to help you regenerate those nerves. So he did physical therapy and took high doses of lion's mane. He took about 2 grams or 2,000 milligrams of extract a day. And after a year and a half, he had full nerve function restored, except for like a little bit above his left eyebrow because of some muscle tissue that needed to heal. But it was incredible. So we think about regenerating, and I used to use lion's mane with a lot of high-performing athletes to help with nerve issues. But not only does it do that in the body, it's actually able to cross the blood-brain barrier, these two constituents within lion's mane, and help activate this nerve growth factor within our mind, which I think of like a light switch, right? Turning on our body's ability to fire and connect neurons. So it works. People are using it preventatively.
What about the studies? What did the studies say about lion's mane?
Yeah, there's a great study with 50 to 80-year-old men and women, and they took 250 milligrams of lion's mane 3 times a day. And over 16 weeks, we saw week over week consistently improved cognitive improvement. And what was really interesting is when they stopped taking the lion's mane daily at that dose, the cognitive benefits began to decline. And so we know there's a power in consistency, right? That's why people love taking lion's mane in their coffee. It's really hard to start a new habit, but when you're consistent with it every day, that's where the benefits really begin to build on themselves, and we see that maintained cognitive improvement.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty awesome. Sometimes I hear people say that natural products don't work because there's not enough research on them. Because in pharmaceutical industry, there's such better financial incentives. You can own products. Nobody's allowed to own nature. Yeah. And there's so much more dollars to do research versus natural foods. And then if there is natural food studies, they're often in vitro or rodent studies. In this case, having a human study, but also placebo-controlled, randomized, gold standard study is pretty amazing. Like, there's not that many of them of different natural products, even like blueberries or whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important. It's like, regardless if you're a person that says, show me the science or tell me the safety and efficacy and history of use, we have both when it comes to lion's mane, and truly a lot of our fungal and plant adaptogens too, which makes them so special.
Another Ayurvedic favorite is holy basil or tulsi. you were lived in India. What makes Tulsi like a sacred herb in India?
Yeah, well, when I first moved to India, I was getting my yoga teacher training and I was walking around and there's all these altars outside of every building. Even a storefront has their own altar. And there was one plant growing out of all these altars. I'm like, what is this? It kind of looks like, it's in the mint family. It kind of looks like the classic basils. And I started asking around and asking my teachers, and people would literally be down on the floor praying, revering this plant as a god. And so I started learning about it, and I took Ayurvedic classes, and in Ayurveda it's known as a tridoshic herb, which is very rare. It means that there's 3 body types in Ayurveda, right? The oldest system of medicine on the planet, Ayurveda and TCM. And tridoshic means that it's effective for all 3 doshic types, or all 3 body types. Really powerful. It obviously has all the similar properties as like other mints, so amazing for respiratory, digestion, but also has this amazing ability to support our longevity, our adrenals, our stress response, and it's safe, right? It's like a basil, so it has these like strong effects, but a safety profile that's equivalent to like chopping up some basil and putting it on your salad or something.
Is there a superfood that you think is like very underrated that not enough people talk about compared to how proven it is and how amazing it is?
Yeah, we'll stay with the India topic, and there's a tree called Moringa. It's often referred to the miracle tree or the tree of life. And as an environmentalist and sustainability geek, I love Moringa because almost every part of this tree is used either for food or medicine. Literally, the seeds, the seed pods, the bark, the roots, the leaves, the flowers, they all have a use and are revered. And I love that. I'm like, it's like eating all parts of an animal. Moringa is, the leaf itself is the most nutrient dense leaf on the planet. So in Western herbalism, we think of things like nettle or oat straw, right, to have this nutritive quality, which means it's packed with vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and Moringa blows that out of the water. It has twice the amount of potassium as a banana, 4 times the amount of calcium as orange, right? It's really a powerhouse. It's even used in developing countries for malnourished children because of how densely it can basically replenish lost nutrients from the body while really easily being able to digest.
Yeah. When I lived in the Philippines, it was the same thing. Wherever I go, they were so into Moringa. It was like their sacred herb.
Yeah.
You also raise a good point about being like the most nutrient-dense leaf. One way to look at, I think, these superfoods is that there's these big categories like leaves and berries and mushrooms and even animal-based products like liver and eggs, that like what are the most nutrient dense things in a big bucket of food choices. So like the most nutrient dense leaf, the most nutrient dense berry, the most nutrient dense animal products. And I think that's also a good way to think about like incorporating some of those like top of the apex foods in our system, right?
Yeah, and if we're gonna eat, why not eat the most nutrient dense superfoods there are? I have a friend that's like, hey, I wanna go on a 4 Sigma foods diet. Like, what are some things I should eat? She's like, if I'm gonna eat foods, give me the best of the best and like make it what's it called? Bang worth your buck or something.
Yeah. Yes, more bang for the buck.
More bang for the buck.
Why does the ESL kid explain to you?
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, you want the good gas. You don't want the cheap gas in your system, right? The good fuel. Hey, there's a lot of like exotic superfoods that people might not have heard of, like the ashwagandas and the moringas and the lion's mane of the world. But there's a lot of superfoods that people know, like what would be examples of foods?
One of my favorites is cacao. I am a big chocolate person. I think this is totally underrated. And it's not the chocolate bar that you buy from Hershey's or, that's loaded with milk and sugar, but cacao itself, the bean is such a powerful, dense superfood that's freaking delicious. And I use it almost every day.
What do you use it for? What are the use cases for cacao?
I love to talk about magnesium. Magnesium's the #1 nutrient deficiency in the American diet and so important, over 300 functions in the body, but I think of it like our cellular relaxer, right? So when I look around and I'm like, we are the most stressed country and we're literally deficient in the nutrient that's enabling our body to relax on a molecular level. This is magnesium. When we look at nature, cacao not only is one of the most magnesium-rich beans or pods, it's also it's been able to preserve that, right? So there's many foods that used to have magnesium in them, but because of the soil quality, unfortunately, they just don't have the levels of magnesium they once did. Cacao, when we get true cacao, it actually still has that potent dose of magnesium that's amazing for whether it's headaches or digestion or relaxation, unwinding. But then it also has this theobromine, right? Caffeine's sister molecule, which gives us this incredible cardiovascular, heart-opening flow state that people used for centuries as a ceremonial agent, right? Cacao is also considered sacred, like Tulsi, and so it bridges this line between this old, sacred, really deeply medicinal plant and something that we need every day and can enjoy and replenish our body with the lost mineral that we need to relax.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool, because if you use it more for like calming and the magnesium benefits, I definitely use it more for like the cognitive theobromine effects. Maybe that's the masculine and the feminine too.
Totally.
What else? So cacao, what are some other superfoods that people would recognize by name that you could incorporate more into your diet?
Look to your spice cabinet. There's so much hidden in the spice cabinet. I think of a lot of Ayurvedic herbs like turmeric, cardamom, cinnamon, right? These are all really powerful superfoods. We could go down the list. You know, cinnamon, I love adding it in my coffee in the morning, helping the body regulate blood sugar, right? Which is so important starting when we wake up. Turmeric, right? The most anti-inflammatory root, rich in that bright yellow color. In India, you see it in curries, but it can be used in, we love drinking turmeric tea.
What I love about that is, like, a lot of people think superfoods are expensive because they often get marketed as a very expensive special thing because they have these special properties.
Right.
But everybody can afford like organic good spices. Like, they're very inexpensive. They go a long way, right?
Absolutely. And use your spices. I see people like doing a tiny bit of spice. Like, you want to use them once they're ground up, really add them, and you want your spices as fresh as possible. So like, don't be afraid to spice up your food, your drinks, everything you're cooking.
Yeah. What else? What are stuff that people would, recognize?
A plant that I think is really cool that we talk about a little bit is hemp. That's really underrated, right? It's in the cannabis family, but hemp, the seed itself, is full of 10 of our essential amino acids, which means we need to get them from food, right? Our body can't make them itself, but also packed with vitamins and minerals and so easy to take. I put hemp seeds in smoothies in the morning. I make really creamy sauces and dressing with it as someone that can't eat dairy. Gives that alternative. And as a primarily plant-based eater, it's amazing to get the amount of protein that I need every day. And it's so different. People are like, really? Hemp? Like, isn't that related to weed?
It's crazy that it got banned. It's such a powerful for clothing. It's so powerful for even construction. And it got banned in the US, so you couldn't. So we get, like, our hemp protein comes from, like, Canada because you couldn't grow it in the US. It's very political, interesting. It's very, even though it's totally different, like the psychoactive version versus the one you use for, like, protein, for example, it's different. I like to joke to my wife that, like, it's the feminine one that gets you high and the masculine that makes you strong.
Yeah, I love this fact when we talk about, like, the misunderstood nature of hemp. You would need to smoke a hemp cigarette the size of a telephone pole to get any sort of high.
Totally.
Like, this is insane.
As a Finnish person, I'm obsessed with coffee. I drink coffee all the time, sometimes decaf, but, like, I see you drinking a lot of tea, and you're, like, obsessed with tea. Can you talk about the tea leaf itself? Obviously assuming high quality, but, like, what makes tea special? Yeah,
so tea is actually all referring to one leaf. It's Camellia sinensis is the Latin name. And so every tea, true tea, whether it's white tea, green tea, black tea, matcha, are all varieties of the same plant. And based on where it's growing and the growing methods and how it's processed is what makes it the certain type of tea that we purchase in the store. Green tea matcha is really having a moment for good reason. It's really cool. So at the end of the life cycle, the green tea gets shaded, so the chlorophyll, right, that nutrient that makes it bright green, is concentrated. So that's why we have this bright green component, and a component that I love from matcha, from green tea, but it's found in all teas, is the amino acid L-theanine, right? So L-theanine it's obviously found in synergy in nature with caffeine, so we have this really great marriage between the two. Or similarly in our cacao, when we talk about that magnesium theobromine, we have the caffeine giving us that energy, that lift, that momentum, and then we have the L-theanine that's helping to balance it. This masculine and feminine is kind of a theme today, where you get into that flow state. You don't get the afternoon crash or jitters, but you're able to achieve that cognitive kind of journey, that flow, that peak state, and then naturally let it decline without feeling side effects that so often happen with isolated caffeine or caffeine from other plants.
Totally cool. Last but not least, I always say, when in doubt, do Rishi. So let's talk about Rishi. Why is Rishi, if you only do one superfood or adaptogen, why Rishi is that?
Rishi's the queen. Rishi has the most, when we talked in the beginning about number of identified compounds, over 100 identified polysaccharides, 120 triterpenes, and a huge host of other really powerful benefits to the body. We're all super stressed. We've talked about this a lot in today's conversation. And Rishi profoundly helps our body get out of that fight or flight state, which secondarily allows us to have the energy, the vitality, the better mood, the focus that we're all wanting. So it really, I think of Rishi as like the nurturing the roots, fertilizing the foundation so that the rest of you can show up optimally.
Cool. And what about the research on it? Like, I know it's been used for thousands of years and in different traditional cultures, but what does the Western science say about Rishi?
There's actually a ton of Western science on Rishi as well. So we have this awesome marriage of 2,000 plus years of history and then several hundred clinical trials as well. There's one study in which participants took 2 grams of water extract of Rishi and experienced significant improvement in fatigue markers. So all these markers that show that we're exhausted or we're stressed.
Nobody's exhausted. Right?
No one's needing that, right? Yeah. So and as secondarily, it showed these positive benefits, and also there were no side effects. This is huge. There's many things that people show me this study, and yeah, there might be 10 clinical trials on some pharmaceutical, but the list of side effects is 6 times as long. When it comes to Rishi, you can have those benefits, and if it doesn't work, I think of it more like a food, right? If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, cool. Okay, what do you want to leave the viewers with regarding superfoods? What would be your summary on how to use them or why they're interesting? What would you say?
We all are very deficient as a population and have never needed superfoods more, and they're more accessible than they've ever been. So you can find them on Amazon, on any grocery store, even look in your own house, right? Start in your spice cabinet, see what's there, and see how you feel. I think the best way to really believe something is improvement in your own body. So it's don't take our word for it. Go try this. Try adding turmeric into your coffee or your tea or into whatever you're cooking every day for a week, or try eating a little bit of dark chocolate, cacao, add some hemp seeds into whatever you're cooking or on your next salad, and start to feel the difference. And you want to keep it up.
Totally. We're right now in Southern California. I'm always blown away how many people in this area, despite all the sun, are still deficient in vitamin D. And similarly, I used to go to this very popular health food store cafe, and I feel like every other person had an autoimmune disorder. I don't know, was it the chicken or the egg? But even within the health community, the amount of gut health issues is pretty incredible. And then when you meet really successful people, the stress and need for focus is pretty incredible. So I think even people who are healthy, baseline healthy by Western medicine are still often needing some sort of a support from nature.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your greatest tip for incorporating superfoods to someone that doesn't do it every day already?
First is compliance. If you don't use it, it's not going to help you. So find ways that it's fun, tasty, or easy to take. That's why I love coffees and smoothies for me. But for some, it might be like a chocolate or a soup or broth that you can prepare and then have it over the week multiple times. Yeah. That's the most important one. The other one is dosing enough. I think there's a lot of marketing and hype and snake oils in superfoods because they sound so good that marketers take advantage of them, and that they're sub-dosed, or they have used the wrong form, or they're not bioavailable. But the most common I see is that they're just sub-dosed, and because they're sub-dosed, people usually don't feel that much benefit. So take enough.
That's my biggest pet peeve. Someone's like, I tried ashwagandha. I'm like, how much? They're like, 5 milligrams. I'm like, you need at least 250 milligrams.
And that's mostly common in online e-commerce products, and then RTDs like the cans and bottles. Those are the two types of products that I see most commonly sub-dosed.
Yeah, same. Great tip.
Cool. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing all your knowledge. I know you're always a wealth of knowledge.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been fun.
That was it. Hopefully you learned a lot about superfoods, and you found one or two that you would like to try on your own body in the upcoming weeks. At the end, like, if there was too much information or too many things, don't worry about. Don't let perfection prevent you from having progress. Just try even one thing in the next week for your own body and see how that impacts your mood and energy and stress and all that jazz. If you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in one of our next videos. Ciao, ciao.